I never thought a simple text could turn my life upside down. It was a Thursday night, and I was sprawled on my bed, mindlessly scrolling through my phone, when my roommate's older sister, yeah, the one I'd met only a handful of times, sent me a message that made my heart almost stop. It read, "Come upstairs, but don't knock." I stared at it for what felt like an eternity. My thumb hovered over the screen, frozen. Part of me wanted to ignore it. After all, she wasn't exactly someone I knew well, and I had no idea why she was texting me like this. But another, far louder part of me, the part that had been daydreaming about her since the first time I met her, was already standing up, gripping my phone like it held the answers to a secret I wasn't supposed to know yet. Her texts were usually casual, asking if my roommate had left the milk out, or if I wanted to borrow a book. But this was different. There was something in the way she wrote it. The words felt deliberate, heavy, almost like a dare. And I couldn't shake the feeling that once I replied, there would be no turning back. That I debated for a full 5 minutes, pacing around my tiny dorm room. My roommate was in the living room, headphones on, completely oblivious to the storm brewing just a few feet away. Every scenario ran through my head. Maybe she was joking, maybe it was some kind of prank, or maybe it was something I wasn't ready to face. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized I couldn't stop myself. Curiosity, it's a dangerous thing when it's mixed with desire. By the time I climbed the stairs, my heart was racing so fast I thought it might burst. I told myself a million times, just check it out. Just see what she wants. Nothing bad can happen. But my instincts were screaming that something was definitely about to happen, something I wasn't prepared for. When I reached her door, I stopped dead. The hallway was silent, except for the faint hum of the heater. I could see a sliver of light under her door, the kind of warm, golden light that made everything feel more intimate than it probably should. My hand hovered over the doorknob. Should I knock? No, the message said don't knock. So, naturally, I hesitated. And that's when I realized something terrifying. The door was already slightly ajar. Not a crack, not a little gap. It was open just enough to make me wonder what I was stepping into. I froze. My brain was screaming at me to turn back, but my body had already decided. I pushed the door open, and that's when I saw her. What she was doing next made me question I should probably explain a little about how I ended up in this mess, because it didn't just happen out of nowhere. My roommate, Jake, had an older sister named Emma. She was different, confident, magnetic, the kind of person who walked into a room and made everyone notice her without even trying. And, naturally, I had a huge crush on her from the very first time we met. But Emma wasn't the type to give anyone attention easily. She had this aura, like she was constantly measuring the world around her, deciding who was worth her time. Jake warned me once, jokingly, "Bro, don't even think about her. She's trouble." At the time, I laughed it off. I thought he was exaggerating. Now, in hindsight, I wasn't sure if he was joking. Jake and I had been roommates for 2 semesters. We had a good rhythm, quiet nights, loud gaming sessions, the occasional late-night pizza run. Emma would visit occasionally, usually dropping by to grab something or check on Jake, but our interactions were brief, polite, nothing more. And yet, somehow, she had managed to leave a mark on me that I couldn't shake. That Thursday night, I had been alone in our apartment. Jake had gone to a late class, leaving me to my own devices. I was scrolling through memes, trying to forget about a long week of assignments and awkward social interactions, when her text landed like a thunderclap. The words "come upstairs, but don't knock" didn't just stand out, they demanded attention. My mind raced, trying to make sense of it. Was it flirtation? A joke? Something serious? I had no frame of reference. She had never texted me like this before, never singled me out. And yet here I was, standing in front of her door, my palms sweaty, my heart hammering. I remembered all the little moments leading up to this. The fleeting glances during dinner at Jake's, the accidental touches when passing in the hallway, the way she laughed at the dumbest jokes like I was actually funny. All of it suddenly made sense in a way I couldn't explain. Emma had always been enigmatic, and now she was pulling me into whatever this was, on her terms, in her world. But there was also that nagging voice in my head. Emma wasn't predictable. She wasn't someone you could read easily. There was always an edge to her, a hint that she didn't do anything without a reason. And the fact that she had sent that text meant one of two things. Either I was about to be led into something thrilling, or something that could completely humiliate me. Standing there, I took a deep breath, trying to steel myself. Part of me wanted to retreat, to pretend I never saw the message and crawl back into the safety of my room. But another part, the part that had been waiting for this kind of moment without even knowing it, pulled me forward. That I reached for the door, hesitated for a split second, and then something completely unexpected happened that froze me in place. That thing I thought I knew about her and about myself. That I finally pushed the door open, slowly, cautiously, like I was stepping into some unknown territory. The room was dimly lit, shadows stretching across the walls, and for a moment, it felt like I'd stepped into a scene from a movie I wasn't supposed to be in. Emma was there, sitting on the edge of her bed, her phone in one hand, a half-smile playing on her lips. "Hey," she said, calm, almost teasing. That single word made my stomach flip. My mind scrambled for something clever to say, but all I could manage was a nervous, "Hey." There was an intensity in her gaze that I couldn't place. It wasn't just curiosity. It was calculation and maybe a hint of amusement at my obvious unease. I wanted to read her, to figure out why she had called me here, but she didn't give me anything. Just that look, sharp and unreadable, like she was daring me to take the next step. "Sit," she said, patting the space next to her. My heart was racing, but I couldn't move. I felt like I was caught in a trap I wanted to fall into, but at the same time, I knew one wrong move could ruin everything. My thoughts spun in circles. Was this a joke? Was she serious? Or was I about to step into some kind of game I didn't understand? She leaned back on her elbows, casually flipping her hair over her shoulder, and for a moment, the tension between us was almost unbearable. My brain screamed at me to leave, but my body was rooted in place. The air felt thick, charged, like something was about to happen, but neither of us was willing to make the first move. Then she said something that stopped me cold. It wasn't a question, not even a hint. Just a statement that threw everything I thought I knew about the situation out the window. "I wasn't sure if you'd actually come." Her words lingered in the air, heavy and deliberate. And that's when the panic set in. Why was I here? Why had she wanted me here? My mind raced through every possible scenario, each one more confusing than the last. I realized I had no control over what was happening. I was at her mercy, and the thrill of it terrified me. Before I could even respond, she stood up and walked toward the window, looking out at the city lights, and I noticed something that made my stomach drop. Something I wasn't prepared for. Emma stood by the window, her silhouette framed by the city lights outside, and I couldn't take my eyes off her. Every instinct in my body screamed that I should turn and leave, but I couldn't move. Something in the way she was holding herself, that calm confidence, made it impossible to step back. It was like standing at the edge of a cliff. You knew the fall was coming, but part of you wanted it anyway. "Why did you really want me to come up here?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady, though it came out more like a whisper. She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she turned slowly, and that look in her eyes, I'll never forget it. It was a mixture of mischief and something darker, something I couldn't quite place. She started walking toward me, each step deliberate, measured. My heart pounded so loud I thought she could hear it. Every nerve in my body was on fire. Excitement, fear, curiosity, confusion. I had no idea what I had walked into, but I knew that whatever was about to happen, it would change something. "Do you trust me?" she asked, stopping just a few feet away. I opened my mouth to answer, but my brain froze. Trust? With her? After everything leading up to this? My mind raced. Did she mean emotionally? Physically? Was this some kind of test? I guess. I stammered, not really knowing what else to say. She smiled. That slow, knowing smile that made my chest tighten. Good. That's a start. Then she reached over to her desk and picked up a small, folded piece of paper. She held it out to me. "Open it," she said. That I hesitated. My curiosity was tearing me apart, but a small voice at the back of my mind warned me. Don't do it. Whatever was on that paper, it wasn't going to be simple. Still, I took it. My fingers trembled slightly as I unfolded it, and my eyes widened at what I saw. It was something I didn't expect at all, and yet, part of me felt I should have. "Emma," I whispered, my voice shaking. She just tilted her head, watching me, waiting. The silence stretched, thick and heavy. My stomach knotted as I realized how little control I actually had in this room. Just as I was about to speak, she moved closer again, and suddenly I noticed something subtle but unmistakable. Something about the way she was looking at me that changed everything. It wasn't playful anymore. There was a sharp edge, an intensity that made my skin crawl and my heart race at the same time. Before I could react, she whispered something that made me freeze, something that made the air in the room feel colder, like a storm was about to break. It wasn't a question, not exactly. It was a declaration, and it hinted at something I couldn't have anticipated, something that would turn everything I thought I knew upside down. And just as I was trying to process it, I realized I was trapped, mentally, emotionally, completely, by whatever game she was playing. I was still reeling from what she had just whispered when my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out, expecting a message from Jake or some random notification, but it wasn't. It was a text from my own number. I froze. My hand trembled as I opened it. The message was simple, chilling. Don't trust her. Leave now. I glanced at Emma, and for the first time, the playful confidence I'd been drawn to was gone. Her expression had shifted, subtle, almost imperceptible, but enough to make my stomach drop. Suddenly, the warm glow of the room felt oppressive, like the walls themselves were closing in. Who? Who sent this? I stammered, panic rising. Emma's smile returned, but it wasn't the same one. It was sharp, knowing, almost dangerous. You really shouldn't read other people's messages, she said softly, her voice ice under velvet. That's when I realized I wasn't just in over my head. I had no idea what game I was even playing anymore, or who was actually in control. And in that instant, I understood. Nothing in this room was what it seemed. My pulse was racing so fast I could barely think. Emma's smile had gone completely, replaced by a look that was impossible to read. My phone vibrated again, the screen lighting up with more messages from me, each one more urgent than the last. Leave. Now. Don't look back. I felt like the walls were closing in. My mind screamed at me to run, but my feet were glued to the floor. Emma took a slow step forward, her eyes locking onto mine, and for a terrifying moment, it felt like she could see every thought swirling in my head. You're scared, she said softly. But you wanted this. I couldn't speak. My voice was gone. My hands were shaking, but I couldn't stop looking at her. Every nerve in my body was screaming danger, yet I couldn't move. I realized then that this wasn't just about her or me. It was about control, about who would decide what happened next. Then she did something I never expected. She held out her hand, and for a fleeting second, it looked like she was offering comfort, a way out, but I hesitated. Something in her eyes flickered, maybe amusement, maybe something darker, and I knew I had to choose. Trust her completely, or listen to the warning that had come from myself. That I took a deep breath and grabbed her hand. The moment our fingers touched, the tension in the room shattered like glass. Emma's expression softened, and she pulled me close, whispering, I was testing you, to see if you'd take the leap. Relief washed over me, mixed with an intoxicating rush I couldn't describe. I laughed nervously, finally allowing myself to believe it wasn't a trap, until my phone buzzed again. I pulled it out and froze. Another message, but this time it wasn't from me, or from her. It was from Jake, and it said one thing that made my blood run cold. Don't let her fool you. She's not who you think she is. Emma's eyes followed mine as I read it. That soft, confident look was gone again, replaced by something almost unreadable. And in that instant, I realized that nothing, absolutely nothing, about tonight was over, and the real danger was only just beginning. After that last message from Jake, I felt like the floor had been pulled out from under me. My mind raced, torn between Emma's words, Jake's warning, and the chaotic swirl of my own feelings. I didn't know who, or what, to believe anymore. I wanted answers, clarity, a way to make sense of the tangled mess I'd stepped into. Emma, surprisingly calm, stepped back and sat down on the edge of her bed again. She gestured for me to sit beside her, and for some reason, I did. It was like gravity was holding me there, even though every instinct in me wanted to bolt. I know what you're thinking, she said softly, her voice steady but gentle. And yes, tonight was unusual, but nothing about me is a lie. The messages, the game, it was all a test. Not to scare you, but to see if you could step into the unknown, trust, and take responsibility for your choices. I blinked. So it wasn't dangerous? None of it. She shook her head. Dangerous? Maybe a little. But the real danger is not living, not risking, not seeing what you're capable of. It hit me then. She wasn't playing some sinister game. She was teaching me something I hadn't realized I needed. Courage. Curiosity, yes, but courage to face something completely outside my comfort zone. And maybe, just maybe, the part of me that had wanted to run from her messages, from the unknown, had needed to step up and confront it. We sat in silence for a few minutes, the city lights spilling across the floor. I finally understood that the tension, the fear, the adrenaline, it wasn't just about Emma. It was about me, and what I was willing to risk, who I was willing to trust, and how I chose to face the unexpected. Jake's warning still lingered in my mind, but I realized he had no idea about the real Emma or the kind of connection that had quietly built between us. Not everything about life, or people, is as simple as it seems. Some moments, like tonight, are messy, confusing, and scary. But they're also the moments that teach you who you are and what you're capable of. As I finally stood to leave, Emma smiled at me again, warm, genuine, and somehow softer than before. "You did good," she said, and I knew she meant more than just coming upstairs. I had faced my fear, made a choice, and come out on the other side a little braver than I was before. I walked down the stairs, my phone buzzing again, but this time, I didn't check it. I didn't need to. The lesson of tonight was clear. Trust yourself, take the risks that matter, and sometimes, the most unexpected moments are the ones that shape your life the most. Even as I got back to my room, heart still racing, I couldn't help but smile. Emma had been the risk I didn't know I needed to take, and I knew, without a doubt, that I would do it again.